Welcome to the Scary Darkroom. Hey guys, tonight we take a ride you'll never forget. One that begins on a lonely highway where not every passenger is truly alive. Some passengers never leave the bus. Some wait in the shadows, silent, patient, and unseen. It was past midnight when Thomas steered his bus onto the long, empty stretch of highway. The night was heavy with fog, the kind that clings to headlights and swallows sound. He had driven this route for 15 years, but it never felt truly comfortable at this hour. The city lights faded miles back, and out here the road seemed to dissolve into nothing, just blackness, trees, and the steady hum of the engine. There weren't many passengers left. A young man slept with his head against the window. An older woman clutched her handbag tightly to her chest. A couple whispered to each other in low voices. That was it. 4 passengers. The bus was nearly silent, just the sound of wheels turning against the asphalt and the occasional sigh of the brakes. Thomas checked his mirror out of habit. The back rows were empty, as they had been all evening. Then, at mile marker 42, he saw her. A woman stood by the roadside, her arm raised stiffly, signaling the bus to stop. Her outline appeared faint at first, almost blurred by the mist, but then the headlights caught her. She wore a pale dress that seemed too thin for the cold night. Her hair was long, falling over her face. She didn't move, didn't shiver, didn't even blink as the bus slowed in front of her. Thomas hesitated. Something about her posture was wrong. But rules were rules. If someone flagged him down, he had to stop. So he opened the doors. The woman stepped inside without a word. She moved slowly, her head tilted downward, her face obscured. She didn't pay the fare. She didn't acknowledge Thomas at all. She simply walked to the back and sat in the very last row. Thomas frowned. He glanced at his mirror again, expecting one of the other passengers to notice her, to shift uncomfortably, or at least look her way. But no one did. The young man kept sleeping. The couple kept whispering. The older woman still clutched her bag. It was as if no one saw the new passenger. The bus continued down the road. The fog grew denser, curling against the windows, pressing against the glass like something alive. Thomas kept stealing glances in the mirror. The woman sat perfectly still, hands folded on her lap. Her head hung at a strange angle, too low, as if she were studying the floor. At the next stop, the older woman rose to leave. She walked past the last row without looking at the silent passenger. For a brief second, Thomas saw her face twist into confusion, her steps falter, but she quickly hurried off the bus, never glancing back. When the doors closed, the air inside felt heavier. The whispering couple got off at the next town. The sleeping man woke, rubbed his eyes, and left soon after. And then it was just Thomas and the woman in the back row. The silence grew unbearable. Thomas cleared his throat. "Last stop's in 30 minutes, he muttered, even though drivers weren't supposed to talk to passengers unnecessarily. No reply. He adjusted his mirror. For the first time he saw her face. Her skin was deathly pale, stretched thin across sharp bones. Her lips were blue, parted slightly, as if frozen mid-breath. But it was her eyes that froze him in place. They weren't looking down anymore. They were wide open, staring directly into the mirror, staring at him. Thomas's hands trembled on the wheel. He looked back quickly, but in the dim light of the bus, her head was bowed again. as if nothing had changed. The road stretched endlessly. The fog thickened. Thomas tried to focus on the yellow lines ahead, but the weight of those eyes pressed against the back of his skull. At the next stop, he opened the doors automatically. No one waited outside. No one boarded. But when he closed the doors and checked his mirror again, his heart nearly stopped. Now, there were 2 passengers in the back row. Another figure sat beside her. A man, gaunt and expressionless, his hands resting stiffly on his knees. His clothes looked damp, as if he had just climbed out of a river. His head lifted slowly, and Thomas swore he saw water drip down his neck. Thomas's chest tightened. He slammed his foot on the accelerator. The bus roared down the highway, too fast for comfort, but he couldn't bring himself to slow down. He didn't stop at the next station, or the one after. Still, every time he glanced at the mirror, there were more of them. A boy in soaked pajamas, a woman with hair tangled like weeds, a man with mud streaked across his face and hollow eyes. They filled the back rows, one by one, without ever making a sound. And none of the empty stops had passengers waiting outside. They were simply appearing. The bus was no longer empty. It was full. Thomas's breath came in short gasps. He gripped the wheels so hard his knuckles turned white. He wanted to pull over, to abandon the bus, but he couldn't. Something stronger than fear held him in place, forcing him to keep driving. The fog outside pressed thicker, swallowing the headlights. He couldn't see more than a few feet ahead. Yet the yellow lines on the road kept guiding him forward. It felt as if the world outside no longer existed, only the bus and its growing number of silent passengers. He checked the mirror one last time. Every single figure in the back was staring at him now. Dozens of pale, unblinking eyes locked on the driver's seat. And in the reflection, Thomas saw something that wasn't possible. He saw himself. Not the living, breathing version gripping the wheel, but another Thomas, sitting in the very back row. His face was pale, his lips blue, his uniform damp with something dark, his eyes wide open. The wheel slipped from his hands. The bus veered off the road. The last sound Thomas heard was the screech of metal tearing against stone, the shatter of glass, and the roar of an unseen river below. Silence followed. And then the bus rolled back onto the highway as if nothing had happened. The fog cleared slightly. The engine hummed steadily. The seats were full, every row taken. And at the front, a driver sat motionless, his eyes hollow, his hands fixed on the wheel. The bus was no longer carrying passengers to their destinations. It was carrying them somewhere else, somewhere they would never leave. Because once you ride the midnight bus, you never truly get off. If this story chilled you, don't forget to subscribe to the Scary Darkroom for more terrifying tales. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from, and what time is it right now in your country?